What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the SchuZ Show. I'm your host, SchuZ Shoemaker, and joining me tonight is a very special guest. He's a man that was an SEC All-Freshman Team selection. He's a guy that's projected to get drafted now in the 2025 NBA Draft, and a former Alabama star, Labaron Philon. Labaron, I appreciate you taking time to come on today, man.
Appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you.
Absolutely, man. Well, let's get right to it. Right now, you're out there in California. You're going through a pre-draft process. I have to imagine it's kind of surreal just being in this position for yourself. What's it feel like just going in and preparing for the NBA Draft?
It's been a real change for me, just like basketball wise, because the floor is more bigger
Yep.
and you gotta learn how to just play off yourself and just be able to make an impact any way you can. So I just been, trying to get stronger and build more speed, more confidence, and just working on my shot more. Being able to play on and off the ball is like really a big thing for me right now. I think in the past season, people see I can play off the ball, but
Yeah.
mostly the concern, if I can still get my own bucket. So that's been one of my main emphasis right now.
I want to ask you then, because when you talk about your game, obviously we all saw what you got flashes doing at Alabama. You had a great season. I think a lot of people fell in love with your game out there. But when you talk about yourself translating now to the next level, being in the NBA, finding what that role is that you're going to solidify yourself for the next, hopefully at least 10 plus year career, what are you kind of preparing for? Like, what is the role you see yourself bringing to the NBA when that time comes?
Just being a tough minded point guard, somebody that, coaches rely on and, people trust me to handle the ball and guard, other great guards in the league. I think, once I get a little bit more stronger, I will be able to do that at a high level. So I'm pretty sure and very confident about, my defense going into, the NBA and just working on my game more. Like I said, being able to do other things other than just play off the wall. So that's a, good thing I'm trying to do right now.
Yeah, I think when you look at your game overall, I think the offense, we saw how much it developed throughout the course of the season. I know the midseason, obviously, with the ankle injury, if we kind of throw that out the window, but we look at just 3-point percentage. Your first 12 games were fine. Then you went 12, the next 12 games were even better 3-point shooting. Then you add on, like, you constantly were evolving offensively. But on the defensive side, I felt like that was always just something that you brought between your intensity, between your ability to match up with the different guys. And we saw you match up against countless big time SEC guys. Walk us through that pride defensively for yourself. Like, where did that come from? Has it always been a part of you? Or when did you really start taking pride in defense?
So when I got to Alabama, it was like a lot of, things I had to just process and a lot of things I had to work on. But I feel like, the coaches there, like once I got there and once they seen, what I can bring to the table, they was very confident in me, just giving me that confidence to just go out and be a dog and be myself. So
Mhm.
like once I started building that confidence, like my energy just showed on the court, off the court, and just like I get that mentality from I would say my mom. My
Okay.
mom's very competitive at everything, and
Mhm.
she just very competitive, I can say. And I think I just took that from her book and just like took it on the court. And I started to see a big change once I started doing that. And
Mhm.
the game became more fun for me because I just wasn't worried about going out there scoring points or nothing like that. I was just worried about, just having fun, trying to play defense at a high level and just be out there with my teammates doing great things. So
Well, I've always been a big fan of your game. I thought you should have been ranked a little bit higher coming out of high school when you came out. I think it was somewhere in the 30s or whatever. I always thought you were easily a five-star type of player. But just for your own personal self, did you feel like a year ago you would be in the position you're at today as a guy that a lot of mock drafts have you go in the first round, some have you in the second round? The point is a lot of people see you getting drafted in this year's draft. Is that always been what you expected for yourself? Is it a little bit surprising to see how far you've come in 1 year, or just where do you stand on that standpoint?
just my confidence. I always knew it would happen.
Okay.
I just needed to be around the right coaches, the right school, and that's certainly why I chose to go to Alabama, just to like be in that position and play for Coach Oates because I know, what he brings to the table. And just like I knew what I was capable of all the time. I don't, you know, particularly look at any mock drafts or,
Okay.
things about the NBA just because it's not coming from NBA GM. So I don't really care what other people are saying about me. I know once I start getting into the workouts and things like that, I'm going to be just fine. And teams are going to be really happy to see me there working out for the team. So
Mhm.
just that, and just having the mentality that I can play with anybody in the country, and just having that swagger back again, like just gaining that proper swagger that I can play with anybody. I'm pretty sure like that's was my motivation going into this, for my decision
Mhm.
to enter the draft. So that was a great process for me to just like learn and develop at Alabama while I could,
Mhm.
and just having fun at the same time.
Oh, I got to ask about this. I know a lot of fans are also looking into this, and they're all questioning whether or not you could possibly come back to Alabama. I know when you officially commit, like last week, whatever it was, you came out and said the same quote, saying "all in on starting my pro career." Now, obviously, that could be your mindset, just saying I'm going all in on it now, or you could be going to Alabama. So I want to ask that to you now, directly. Now, is there even a chance that you go back to Alabama? Like, is that on the table? Do you still have eligibility, or is it 100% draft? There's no chance of going back to Alabama.
I would say 100% draft, but things can change. Like
Hmm.
you never know. But I would say, I love Bama, like just the program, the school, the state. Like it was all love when I was playing there, and I didn't never receive any hatred or nothing like that. Like walking around school, just being a regular kid again was like mostly the most fun part for me, and
Hmm.
I'll never take that for granted. But I'm all in on the draft right now because I feel like I want to be a pro, and you never know what can happen. So
Right.
we'll just have to wait and see.
So do you still have the eligibility option? Your mindset is more so I'm 100% on this. I'm not really thinking about it. I think I'm going to go to the draft. I'm going to get drafted or whatnot, but you still do have eligibility open if you want to return back.
Uh, I would say yeah,
Okay,
kind
gotcha.
of, but like I said, I'm 100% on the
Yeah,
draft. So
for sure. Well, let's get into this now because you're going to be coming up now pretty shortly now. I know you're doing the workouts and whatnot, but then you get to the combine. And that's obviously a place where you could go out there and shine. When you get the opportunity to kind of show up yourself against all the other top guys, when you go to that opportunity, what do you want to prove? What do you want to just what do you want it to be that when GMs look at you, coaches look at you, what do you want them to take away from your game and what you could possibly bring to their team?
he can do it all.
Hmm.
He can be a lead guard. He can defend other great players. He can shoot the ball, and just he bring relentless energy. I feel like they seen that,
Hmm.
come out of me at Bama. I'm really good with my teammates. And I just play the game the right way. I just try to play it the right way every time I step on the court. So I
Hmm.
think once I go to the combine, it's not going to be no different. I I don't know those guys. I haven't played with them, but you know, basketball brings a lot of guys together, and I'm pretty sure
Hmm.
whatever guys I'm playing with there, I will be able to do the same thing that I did, at Alabama, but just in a better showcase, the
Sure.
biggest stage of it all. So
Hmm. All right, well, man, I want people to get to know you a little bit better because you're a guy that obviously we've known each other for quite a few years now. But I want to go back to you before we started getting to know each other when you were growing up. And there was an article that was put together about your history, about your story a little bit. I want to ask you a couple of those things. And one of that was this article was by Hunter DeSilver. And he said that you slept with a basketball every night. You also wore your Steph Curry jersey practically everywhere you went when you were growing up as a kid. Is that a true story? Were you always sleeping in your basketball growing up?
yeah, it's
Okay.
actually funny because my mom actually told me this. Like she said I wouldn't go to sleep unless, I had a ball laying next to me, which I
Okay.
think was crazy. But like, you know, that little self of me, I would say I was so in love with basketball. It was just like
Mhm.
my first priority. But I still play a little bit of football. But I felt like basketball was going to be the one because, at a young age, I think my dad wanted me to play against the older kids a lot.
Mhm.
I played against older people all my life, so it just like it made me so much more advanced. Like, and I started seeing the game different. So at a young age, I think I still play my age level, but my
Yeah.
dad he wanted me to play a couple age levels up because he just seen that I was so advanced and I can use both hands at a young age. But yeah, Steph Curry, he was definitely my favorite
Okay.
when I was little. I used to have all the, clothes and stuff like that.
Mhm. Now, I have to ask you this question. I mean, it kind of goes right into what we were just talking about a little bit ago. But if, let's say, you do stay in the NBA draft, you get drafted, you know that night's going to come. We could possibly match up against Steph Curry. Is he the dream guy to match up with? Like, if you could pick anybody in the NBA to play and guard against, is he the dream guy or is there somebody else?
Yeah, it's him,
Mm-hmm.
Kyrie,
Okay.
uh, Dame,
Fair enough. Yep.
Westbrook. All the just point guards I watched growing up. Like
Mm-hmm.
it would be a surreal feeling just to be on the same court with them and just guarding them.
Absolutely, man. Well, you talk about the competitive nature of your family, and also in that same article there was a discussion about you guys growing up and how you have family members that's quite a bit older than you, and you always had to be competitive. You always went out there and compete against them. Can you take us through just growing up in that competitive nature of family members and just what that was like?
It was hard for me. I would
Yeah.
say just because I had to work to get on the court. They didn't
Hmm.
always just let me jump on the court, but everybody always knew I was just like good.
Yeah.
But like once I started like seeing how they play and how physical it was, because they used to push me around and stuff like that, try to make me cry, stuff like
Hmm.
that. Like it did just get to me. Like I always kept playing, and sometimes like I played against my dad a lot, my brothers, my cousins, like everybody around the neighborhood. And my dad would just tell them like, be physical with me, don't let me score, stuff like that. So it just made it like really hard on me. And that's why I
Hmm.
would say like the game come a lot easier now, just because of those moments
Hmm.
and the work ethic you put in.
When would you say in your life you started to click for yourself and said, you know what, basketball is what I'm meant to do. This is the sport that I'm going to make my living off of. When did that click for you?
Um, I think I would say I would say park ball, but
Okay.
as a young guy, you really don't like as a young kid, you really don't know you're that special
Fair
until
enough.
you
Yeah.
really like go into it.
Hmm.
So I would say like once I got in middle school, like everything just like took off. I just like I would say at the end of my eighth grade year, I got a couple offers like fast SEC going into ninth grade, and then like we all knew we was like, yeah, it's going to happen for sure.
And you know what's crazy about you is that you growing up in Alabama, that's not a state that people look at and say, okay, that's the mecca of basketball right there. Like, there's not a lot of great basketball players that come from that state. Now it's developed over time and all those things, but that's predominantly a football state. We know how much talent comes from there overall. So growing up, then what was it about basketball that you kind of stood out to and said, you know what? Even though football is kind of the most popular sport down here, by far the most popular sport down here, I really just love basketball. I want to make a name for myself as a basketball player in the state.
I will say, like going back into the middle school days, it was just like I was just going crazy. Like every game, like my family they would be there,
Hmm.
my dad would be there, my mom, and I would just like go berserk every game I tried. Like every time I stepped on the floor, I was trying to kill whoever was in front of me,
Hmm.
and it was just like I was having fun. Like I was having more fun than I was playing football.
Gotcha.
So I was like, I just told my dad like I'm not gonna play that no more. And like I see
Hmm.
something with this, and I'm gonna just keep going with it. And he was like, yeah, like we all knew. And that's like they tell me that all the time. Like we all knew, like we
Hmm.
all knew. We just seen it from like a young age. But
Hmm.
I would say, you know, playing basketball back in Alabama, it was fun for me just because of the like making a name for yourself.
Yeah.
Like you can really, I really like skyrocketed up in the world, and more people start like just knowing about me,
Hmm.
and it was just like once it got to that top level, I was just like going to be one of those guys that was highly rated in the country. And
Hmm.
I think sophomore or freshman year, I got ranked in the ESPN 100. I was like in
Yep.
a, I would say 40s, 30s.
Sounds right. Yeah.
And, I moved up and down some, but, it was just a real journey for me and my family. So that was like so fun to go through.
All right, man. So I want to get into your recruiting process because that was quite the story of just how you got all the way to Alabama and becoming one of their best players last year. And so I gotta get into this. Your very first one, I think it was the end of junior year. You commit to the other hometown state team in Auburn. Walk us through that decision. Like, why was Auburn the school you decided to go to at that first point?
You know, they had a lot of good guards come through there. Like,
Hmm.
you know, Sharif was one of my favorites.
Yeah.
And Coach Prell, you know, it looked like he gave him the keys. So I was like, you know, this guy, he like really likes his guards. So, you know, I wouldn't have a problem going there. My family liked it. You know, the coaching staff was great. And, you know, it was just a surreal feeling being there too. You
Hmm.
know, even though I didn't end up going there, it was like all around great program. And, you know, I think Coach West left, my recruiter, he left. And, you know, I had a talk with my family that, you know, with him leaving, like it was just like a shocker for me because that was like one of the coaches that I built a strong relationship with. So
Hmm.
that was, you know, about Auburn.
Okay. And then you end up going through the process again. You come down to a school in Kansas, who I was a big fan of you going there at first. I thought could have been a great fit until obviously the transfer portal hit and stuff goes on there. But I just have to pick your mind this at first because it all made sense on paper. We talked about Bill Self. He's a great point guard coach. Oliver Frank Mason, Devontae Graham, so on and so forth. And obviously you could have slid right there and made sense at the time. But walk us through your thoughts on that. Like, because you're going through a process, a lot of schools wanted you. You're one of the top players of the country. At least at that point, I think you're one of the top available because there was already a lot of commitments. Why was Kansas school that won you over at that point?
I would say, you know, like their history
Yeah.
and, you know, Coach Self just being one of the greatest of all time, I would say, you
Mhm.
know, and I seen, you know, the work he have done with guys. You know, I know multiple connections on their team.
Mhm.
Well, you know, multiple guys that been through there, played guard there, and I know people that, you know them. So,
Gotcha.
you know, the history was great. And I would say the coaching staff was really good too. You know, Coach Case was my main recruiter. He was, you know, all in on me. You know, he was almost at every game. You know, he came and watched me play in the summer when I reopened my, you know, process, and they was there like watching me, and they loved what I do on the court, and you know, I trusted them to, you know, take me in and do great things, but you know, it was just one day I woke up and it was just something just telling me like Alabama, Alabama, Alabama. And then like I called my mom, had a talk with, you know, her and my dad. And it was just like, you for real? And I was like, I don't know. Like, is it today or I just woke up feeling it?
Mm.
And then I reopened my process again, which, you know, became more of a, you know, family talk going over
Yeah.
and, you know, just being connected with them and, you know, seeing what they think about it. It really helped me made it easier for me,
Yeah.
you know, because a lot of people will have nerves in that situation, but it just made it easier for me to just do what I wanted to do all along. And that was to go back and play for, you know, Alabama.
All right. So I got to pick up on two things you just said. There. The first portion was so before you even entered the reopen your recruiting process or anything along those lines, you already kind of knew, like in the back of your mind, like, okay, I just want to be I want to be playing for Alabama. No matter what happens, I want to go to Alabama. Is that kind of correct then?
Yeah.
Okay. And then the other component to that is when you talk about the Kansas team, I know at that point you had the portal going on, and obviously Harris decides to come back, and there's a lot of different movements that pull in guys, like what ends up becoming essentially a college trade between you and Ryland ends up happening. AJ Store gets there. Was that anything that impacted your decision because of the fact the way the portal and the new look roster was forming? Did that impact anything?
I would say no. Like,
Okay,
you know, I would never run for no competition. Like,
fair enough. Yeah,
you know, I always like if I feel like if I was to go to Kansas, I probably would have did the same thing that I did. You know,
yeah.
it's just like, you know, it was just a feeling in my gut that, you know, Alabama was right for me.
All right.
And, you know, I wanted to play for Nate Oates, you
Mm-hmm.
know, just because I seen what he do with his guys as well. And I can say he pushed me to a different level this year that I thought I'd never get to. So that was great.
All right, so I got a picture I pulled up. That's something you drew when you're younger kid. So I want to ask this question. I'll show this picture as well to everybody else. But growing up as a kid, you made this picture that should be on the screen right now. You drew it of you wanting to go to Alabama, and it talks about the fact that you said, "I'm going to commit to the University of Alabama." You have yourself an Alabama jersey. Walk us through this standpoint. Was this something that you always dreamed of as a kid? Did you always want to go and commit to Alabama when you're growing up?
I would say, yeah,
Okay.
my family, they used to, buy me and my brother birthday cake, half Auburn, half Alabama sometimes.
Okay.
But, it was just like crazy. I actually drew that when I was very young.
Okay.
I think I think it was snowing in Mobile, and
Hmm.
it was snowing real bad. And we went and got a hotel, and I just picked up the notepad and I drew it.
Hmm.
And I think, my mom kept it for a long time. And then like she didn't really show me it until like I was playing in season at Alabama. Cause
Okay.
I haven't seen a picture in like so long. And she showed me like it was like when we was close to playing Auburn, she showed me the
Hmm.
picture. And I was just like, I remember this from somewhere. And I drew it when I was like really, really young.
Hmm.
So like once that happened, and then we won by a buzzer beater, that was crazy. I was
Hmm.
like, wow. Even though we didn't win by three, like it said
Yeah.
on his, on the picture, but
Yeah.
that was kind of crazy.
So when you were just growing up, then just the aspect of being the hometown hero, playing for your hometown team, did that add any more excitement, or how exciting was it then when you did officially say, "Okay, I'm going to go to play for out NATO to Alabama"? What did that mean to you, knowing that you get to play at the school you dreamed of playing at when you were younger?
It was like it was unreal. Like the love I got was like unreal.
Hmm.
Like soon as I got there, like barely walk around, everybody knowing who I am, and I thought it was gonna be like regular because I was just like a freshman coming on the
Yeah.
campus. But being an Alabama kid, it meant more, I would say. And playing with two other Alabama guys, that was really fun.
Yep.
Just to be around them and just to play with them. But I would say being at Alabama, it was just like it made it so easy for me to just focus on basketball just because like I knew I wanted to be there and I didn't have to stress about anything. So once I first got there, like they didn't give anything to me. Like they didn't give me the starting point guard position or they didn't give me my role on the team. Like they made me come in and earn it. And that's why I say, Oates and the staff we had like did a great, great job just because like they didn't hand anything to me. Like I had to go work for it. So it was fun just like competing every practice when I first got there, having a little nerves going against, one of the best point guards in the country,
Hmm.
which, we had in Mark and just going against that AP All American every day, it really made me get better. So that was one of the good things I pulled away from that.
So I heard a story, and yeah, you can correct me if I'm wrong or not, but pretty much from the very first day, the guy that you wanted to guard at practice was the guy you just were talking about, Mark Sears. Is that true? Like from right when you first got on campus, you wanted to go guard that guy?
Yeah, it
That's
was
what's up.
like they thought I was crazy because like they thought I was gonna be scared or something. Like they thought I was
Mhm.
gonna be scared. I mean, we had our days. It was some days, he got after me, and
I'm
it
sure.
was
Yep.
some days, I got after him. But you know, they rarely put us on the same team because it was
Hmm.
obvious. Like once they seen like how I could defend and score the basketball and share it.
Hmm.
I think, they just see, yeah, we got, these two guys. We can split them up and make them go against each other every day, and they gonna sharpen each other iron. And I feel like, once everybody seen what I can do, like the intense level was very high every practice. because we had people going for my team, people going for his team. People wanted him to just go at my neck, and people wanted me to stop him. So it was really
Mhm.
fun. Like he made it really fun, and just like it made everybody get better because once the other guys seen how hard we was playing, they started playing very hard. So
Mhm.
I was just guarding guys like Mark, and then happened to guard guys like Chris, Latrell, Aiden. It was really fun because we had a very special guard group, and it was all love at the end of the day, even though we used to try to kill each other in there.
The biggest lesson you learned from Mark Sears throughout that 1 year together, what would it be?
Just staying confident. I would say, you know, most people look at him as, great player, you know, just all around great player. But, I didn't been there around him when he's been struggling a little bit.
Mhm.
And like this he doesn't change. His personality doesn't change. He smile,
Mm.
still be around the guys, still talk to all the coaches. So like I never seen a different personality from him, and his work ethic never changed. I would say, when I first got there, he was working out every day, like
Mm.
hard, 100%. It was some days our coaches should be like, "Yo, you might be working a little bit too hard." And then, like once I saw that him and Latrell getting it in every day, I was like, "Yeah, yeah, I'm gonna be able to, make a living while I'm
Mhm.
here." So,
I think that's a cool thing that you said there because we saw Mark Sears at a couple of games this year, and I forget which ones specifically they were, but there was times where he was benched for the back end of the game, the stretch run of the games, and a lot of people obviously caused controversy online, fans and all that were going back and forth on that. But I think it also showed the fact that one, you guys were very, very deep. You don't have Mark Sears in, well, you have yourself, you have Aiden Holloway in, you have a lot of guys and talented guards in the group, but still to see the leader, a guy that's an All-American, be okay in a sense. I'm sure you still want to be in the game, but embrace it from an outside look, still supporting his teammate standpoint. Well, had to be cool to see for yourself. What did that teach you? Just
um,
a guy that could kind of do that.
it was like it was just fun, like you know that particular game. I think I know which one you're talking about.
Hmm.
Uh, I think he was struggling a little bit. Coach took him out, but he was still cheering us on.
Yep.
Trying to give us pointers during the game and trying to tell us how to finish the game. Because I think Illinois started making a run back,
Hmm.
and it was me and Aiden, young guys. The game
Yep.
was getting very intense, high level game, and he just told us what to go out there and do and try to help us while he wasn't on the court. I'm pretty sure we would, love for him to be on the court, but
Yeah.
you know, he was still cheering us on and still happy for us. And that was the main thing for me, you know, not seeing him being that guy to just like only be worried about himself.
Yep.
And like once I seen that, it just like made me like respect him a little bit more because that mean, he wants everybody to do good. He wants everybody, to get that spotlight. So like it just made it easier for me when I was struggling and seeing him like exploding games,
Hmm.
just trying to cheer him on and cheer everybody else on and be a great teammate. So
Somebody else I want to get into is Nate Oates. He's an incredible coach. He's one of the best coaches. In my opinion, he's a guy that it's just a matter of when he's going to win a national championship. I don't think it's a matter of if. And so you got to be coached by a guy of that caliber for an entire year. What's it like being coached by him?
I would say it's not for the regular type of people.
Hmm.
I would say just because he say some things that are like that'll make you be like, "Whoa, he really just said that." But he's really just like joking to see like what would your response be?
Mm.
Like, he used to get on me all the time, but I loved it. I took it in like I took it Like he was looking at me as one of his kids. You
Mm.
know, he always gave me, pointers trying to make the game look easier for me. I would say he just stayed on me a lot. He didn't never made like never let me slack. Um, he just made sure I did everything really, and just like playing for a coach like that with the type of freedom he give us, and how what kind of offense we ran. Like
Mhm.
it was really fun playing in that. Like it was just like playing pickup really with a lot of defense because we have sets that we like to run, but you know in the first 6 seconds of the shot clock, if you can go get a bucket, like he wouldn't
Yeah.
be mad at all. If you break off a play, like he wouldn't be mad at all. As long as you get after it on the defensive end.
Mhm.
And his way of firing me up sometimes was to cuss me out. Like
Yeah.
it just had to happen. Or, he'll pull me to the side, tell me in my ear, like just like it's go time.
Mhm.
And I would say it was very fun, like just having somebody like that because most players they don't like that type of coaching. Like they don't like the hard coaching. But I would say, he coaches very hard, but it's all love at the end of the day. He still have everybody come over his house, dinner, watch NBA games,
Okay.
football games. Like he's he's going to be one of the best when it's all said and done. And like you
Agreed.
said, you know, we don't know when he's going to get his first championship, but I'm pretty sure he will have multiple when it's all said
Agreed.
and done.
Mhm. So I got to ask you then, what is your favorite Nate Oates story between the two of you guys in game, outside the court, on the court? What's your favorite Nate Oates story?
Uh, Let me see. I have to think of some. I'm trying to think of one now. Uh, which one? I would say the Missouri game when I think I made a mistake. It was like we was down a lot in the beginning. We
Mhm.
started, coming back, and I think I threw the ball away when I was taking it out of bounds, and he got so mad he broke the clipboard. Did you see that?
Yeah, I do remember a clip. I saw something about down X. Yeah.
He broke the clipboard, and they gave him a text. He called us over, and he was like getting on to me, but I didn't like say nothing back. I was just like, "Okay, I got you, I got you, I got you." Like
Mhm.
we locked in, we locked in. He was just like, "Come on, it's go time, it's go time, it's go time," and like it's just like I was like, "All right, bet, like it's go time," and that's why I would say like I loved his hard coaching moments just because like I used to get so rowdy for it. I
Mhm.
used to be like ready to go out there and play. Or I would say Mississippi State game at home. I was playing great defense. We came back media timeout and he was just like he was telling me like we needed that. We needed that. Yeah, man. Like your energy was great.
Mhm.
Like all the time. Like things like that. It was just like making me feel that I was doing something good all the time. But like I'm gonna go over a bad moment. Um, I would say some turnovers. He definitely get mad off some turnovers. It was a couple of times I turned the ball over. He was just on me, but like I just took it like he was just trying to make me better. So
Mhm. All right, so I got to ask you a little bit more about the Missouri game. I'm sure you guys have talked about that afterwards. Did you guys kind of bring that up and discuss? And if so, how'd that conversation go when you guys talked about breaking the clip?
nah. I don't know if it was really because of me, but
Okay,
I
fair
think
enough.
so because I threw the ball away and they got I think I threw it away. And I think somebody either committed like a clear path, I think, or
Mhm.
something like that, because they was shooting free throws after that.
Okay.
But I won't say it was because of me. I thought it was because of me because I turned the ball over, but it was just like one of the moments where I seen him like actually like really fired up, like he broke the clipboard. I was like, dang, that's crazy.
Absolutely, man. Well, I want to get into your season a little bit more because for you personally, you started off and were waking a lot of people up. It was going great. You have a little bit of an ankle injury, it slows you down a little bit in the mid-season point, but then you get going and you finish off very, very strong to end the season. I know we kind of briefly touched up on it beforehand, but for yourself, it's sometimes difficult for guys because you get an injury, slows you down. It's hard to get that confidence, that rhythm back. You managed to do that. So, how did that mid-season transition go for yourself, where you had to embrace a little bit more limited role, and then all of a sudden you broke out again just on time for the tournament run? How did that whole process go for yourself?
I would say it was good the whole time. You know,
Okay.
I knew I really had to take some time because it was a really serious injury. So
Mhm.
I just like I had to accept it. And I would say he would say that he didn't see the like he didn't see a different kid in me. Like he seen the same person all the time, even though I had to come off the bench some games. I never complained, never asked for no minutes back. Like it was just like, wherever you put me in, I'm gonna go in and do the same thing you did when I was starting. So
Yeah.
like once I started getting the rust off and just like building that momentum back, he inserted me in the starting lineup, and that was just like it was good for me just to get that confidence back. Just because coming off an injury is really hard. Like
Mhm.
you trying your hardest to play and trying your hardest to practice, but if you can't go, you just can't go. And the recovery side for me, it was really good. I feel like I recovered fast, but just having to go through that for me, it was really good just
Mhm.
to see some adversity come and just to see how I was gonna handle it. And I did it how I expected I was gonna do it. Not like caring too much about minutes going down or things like that. So that was a great process to go through, I would say.
All right, so there's another crazy thing about the season last year, and that was in terms of, I guess it's kind of off court issue there, but you talk about you and Ryan Williams, two guys, same city in the same state, growing up together. Both you guys are star freshmen, one for obviously football team, one for the basketball team. Did you guys know each other growing up at all, or did that relationship start really growing once you guys got to college?
Oh yeah, I knew him growing up,
Okay.
like park ball, high school,
Mm-hmm.
and like our relationship just got better, like just because I knew him,
Okay.
like he was like a brother to me, and like I ain't really like see like he was just like that
Yeah.
until I really started like going to watch him work out, going to his training with his dad, like
Mhm.
going and watch like the things he do on a daily, and I was like, yo, like he's really playing with these guys when he's supposed to be in high school, like, and then like I see him work out against some high school kids, and
Mm-hmm.
I'm just like, nah, you need to go back to school, like. Nah, you too advanced for them. Like, no.
Mm-hmm.
And like in Alabama, we got great, high school football. Like, we got great players.
Yep.
And like just seeing him shine against that. And then when he got to Bama, just like watching games in person was crazy.
Mm-hmm. I know it might maybe isn't as crazy for you guys, but when you talk about everyone else looking at it, it's like, okay, two guys from the same city go on to be the same year freshmen at the same college and dominate the way you guys both did being star freshmen. How cool is it just when you kind of look back and say, okay, that's a pretty crazy story right there. So what's it like kind of seeing the way you guys both were able to show out hometown teams and play the way you guys did, freshman years?
I would say it's just great, for the
Hmm.
state and for the city, just
Yep.
because it's a lot of people that love us back home, and there's a lot of kids that look up to me and him, and like just to be doing what we doing right now, it's a real deal blessing. Like to be two of the top premier athletes to come out of Mobile, and just Alabama alone. Like that's a great feeling.
Well, I want to get into the SEC as well last year because, in my opinion, it was probably the greatest conference in regular season and postseason. This overall top to bottom season we've seen from a basketball conference before. I mean, that conference was stacked last year. You were a part of that. What was it like being a part of the SEC last year?
It was good. Like it was competitive.
Hmm.
Like every team was like every game was a war. You know, you can never come into a game real relaxed because that team is going to make you pay no matter who you playing, what night. You know,
Hmm.
everybody got athletes, everybody got scorers, everybody got defenders. You know, everybody got bigs, everybody got great or decent coach that know how to coach. You know, a great
Hmm.
team, and I would say like it was just I would say one of the best leagues that you know the SEC had in a minute.
For
You
sure.
know, with just like the athletes and the freshmen that came into the SEC, and just the older guys that's been playing in the league for a long time, and just like going against them, it was really fun. Like all the teams going against all the teams in the SEC, it was really fun.
Well, a couple more questions before I let you go. And one of those is that when you talk about a couple of different aspects I just want to get into, one of which is the NIL component. We know that's obviously been a massive new change for the college basketball landscape. You obviously benefited from that last year. What has that experience been like? And what's your overall thoughts on the college landscape in terms of how it's all going with the portal, obviously, too, but mostly just NIL basis?
I don't really know how to feel about it, just because like it's modern day. Like
Yeah.
players are getting paid, and I feel like the elite players on every team is getting paid more.
Yeah.
But it's just like it's really cool to see, really, just
Hmm.
because I know back then college players wasn't able to make any money, and I
Hmm.
feel like if you're a good college player and you know that you're not capable enough to play in the NBA, it just give you an outlet, to play all your years out and make a little bit of money to help your family and help the ones around you,
Yeah.
and just being in any program like receiving NIL for just like something you love doing daily. I would say, like that can motivate you to want to try even more harder. But I feel like the landscape of NIL today is really like it's good,
Yeah.
and they did a good job of bringing it. I would say because like if you just look, say if me and you had a team, like if me and you was teammates,
Hmm.
but we come from a good family and all that. But we got, a teammate from not where we from,
Yeah.
or, just like another state, like another country. Like,
Hmm.
how would we feel about, if we wasn't able to get no money off playing basketball, or we was able to make money, and the kid that's from another country or from somewhere they don't have much, able to take care of his family and take care of his country and give back to that. So I would say it's a blessing for sure, and I will never take it for granted. I mean, I was able to help my family a little bit, just
Hmm.
because a little bit of things I didn't earn, and, I'm just off playing basketball. So I would say I look at it like, players and things being able to, help their surroundings, help their families, and, get back to the community. So
Well, one of the other aspects you kind of alluded to a little bit there quickly was that you talk about the NBA decision. I know that's obviously it could obviously impact you to some extent. Not sure if that's the case or not, but we have seen guys that because of the amount that NIL can possibly offer, it can in a sense offset the possibility maybe if you're a second round pick or something. Is that something that you notice is good for that? Is that something maybe would apply to yourself where if the right NIL package comes together for yourself, that could be something that would intrigue you to possibly return back to college?
I was saying like it's not about the NIL or the
Okay.
money, just for me,
Hmm.
like it's just about, do you want to go back and play for that school, or do you
Okay.
want to chase your dream and you know play with the big guys? But
Yeah.
for if I'm looking at it from someone else's shoes, I would say, yeah, like, say if they fall somewhere where, they think they're not going to succeed, or you get injured while going through the process, or, you don't like the feedback you get and you want to go back.
Hmm.
Now, that's the thing where, you have to discuss with the people around you and the program, you want to choose. But yeah, that's
Makes
definitely like a conversation you would have to sit down and just like go over before you just hop in it.
So you say it's more so just kind of opened up the door where it says at least this is a discussion now where it's kind of in a sense another opportunity, another option for guys as opposed to just if I'm an NBA prospect, I'm going 100%, no questions asked.
Yeah, because like I would say if you're a for sure NBA prospect, like
Hmm.
that don't mean you gotta go to the NBA. Like that don't mean you gotta, chase the pros right now. I feel
Yep.
like, some guys that are capable of playing in the NBA probably went back to college this year. Like some of them. And the guys, I feel like, the guys that have the NBA as a dream for a long time, ever since they was a kid, just watching it, like they want to be in it. So that's probably, a reason for them to be all in.
Gotcha. Well, I got two more questions I got before I let you go, man. One of which is that mid-season, Riley Rodriguez dropped a song. He had his name in he had your name in there. I have to imagine you've heard that at this point. What's your thoughts on that? And where were you when you heard that?
Uh I already like I heard the song a little bit before it released,
Okay.
but it really became a big thing because like it was a feature on Lil Baby's like new
Yeah.
album,
Hmm.
and like it was like it was crazy. It was kind of crazy a little bit, I would say, because somebody woke me out my sleep talking about that song like late at night. I think the album dropped like at 12 o'clock.
Hmm.
I was get ready to go to sleep. They were like, "Yo, you listen to this new Lil Baby album?" I think
Hmm.
Rilo said your name on one of the songs, and I would listen to it, and it was just like it was crazy because like I know him for a long time,
Okay.
like, and I have some of his unreleased music, so
Gotcha.
like it really didn't bother me like that.
Okay, that's what's up. Well, I got one final question for you, man, and that's talking about your legacy. I know you got a long career ahead of yourself, but one day that career is going to come to a conclusion. When that day does happen, what is it you want people to remember Labaron Philon for?
Just a dog,
Hmm.
and just to be one of the most talked about point guards in the NBA, I would say, and just like being an all NBA guard, I would say that's
Okay.
the most thing I want people to remember before, and just like being in the league for a lot of years, being able to play and maintain while just like keeping my head strong, being a good person like I still am,
Hmm.
and just like taking care of the people around me and just like giving back to the program I came from.
Gotcha. Absolutely, man. Well, Baron, I'm excited to see what God's got next for you, man. Best luck to this entire draft process, and I'm excited to see what God's got in store for you, man.
Thank,
Absolutely, man. You always welcome on, man. God bless.
thank you.
Appreciate everybody for tuning into that interview. I have that clip down, edited, and then posted separately on my YouTube channel very shortly. I'll see you guys tomorrow on the SchuZ Show. May God bless you guys all. Good night. See you guys later. SchuZ out.